Three Grand Masters presided over the large number of work. Men, namely Solomon, king of Israel, Hiram, king of Tyre, and Hiram Abiff. These were the only persons who at the building of the temple were master masons and in possession of the secrets of the third degree. The statement in the ritual is that the workmen were divided into lodges. The Lodge of Master Masons, for there could be only one of that degree, consisted of 3 members. The Lodges of Fellow Crafts, of which there must have been 16,000, was composed of 5 members each, and the Lodges of Entered Apprentices, of which there must have been 10,000, was composed of 7 each. But as this statement has neither historical authority nor logical possibility to support it, it must be considered, as it undoubtedly was originally intended to be considered, merely as a reference to the symbolic character of those sacred numbers in Masonry, 3, 5, and 7. In the same spirit of symbolic reference, the steps of the winding stairs leading to the middle chamber were divided into a series of 3, 5, and 7, with the addition in the English ritual of 9 and 11. All of this is, therefore, to be rejected from the class of legends and referred to that of symbols. Viewing, then, this legend or theory of the origin of Masonry at the temple, tracing it from the almost nude state in which it is presented in the legend of the craft, through the extraneous clothing which was added by Anderson, and I suppose by Degeilers, to the state of tinsel ornamentation in which it appears in the modern ritual, we will come to the following conclusion. In the legend of the craft, we find only the following statement: that King Solomon was assisted in the building of the temple by the king of Tyre, who sent him materials for the edifice and a skillful artist, on whose name scarcely any 2 of them agree, and whom Solomon appointed as his master of the work, that Solomon invited masons from all lands, and having collected them together at Jerusalem, organized them into a body by giving them a system of laws and customs for their government. Now, most of these facts are sustained by the historical authority of the books of Kings and Chronicles, and those that are not have the support of extreme probability. That Solomon, king of Israel, built a temple in Jerusalem is an historical fact that cannot be doubted or denied. Richard Carlile, it is true, says, "My historical researches have taught me that which has been called Solomon's temple never existed upon earth, that a nation of people called Israelites never existed upon earth, and that the supposed history of the Israelites and their temple is nothing more than an allegory." Footnote: Manual of Freemasons, Part 1, page 4. But the measure of the moral and mental stature of Carlyle has long been taken, and even among the most skeptical critics he remains alone in his irrational incredulity. Doubtless there are Oriental exaggerations in respect to the amount of money expended and the number of workmen employed on the building, which have been overestimated. But the simple, naked fact that King Solomon built a temple remains uncontradicted and is as historically true and undoubted as that of the construction of any other public edifice in antiquity. It is equally historical that the king of Tyre gave assistance to Solomon in carrying out his design. However fiercely the skeptics may have attacked certain portions of the Bible, the books of Kings and Chronicles have been placed upon the footing of other ancient historical records and subjected to the same canons of criticism. Now we are distinctly told that Hiram, king of Tyre, sent masons and carpenters to David to build him a house. Footnote. Chronicles 14:1. We learn subsequently that the same Hiram, some say his son, was equally friendly with Solomon, and although there is no distinct mention either in Kings or Chronicles that he sent workmen to Jerusalem, footnote, we are told in 1 Kings 5, and it is repeated in 2 Chronicle 2 that Hiram sent his workmen to Lebanon to cut down trees. Timber they were to carry to Joppa, where Solomon was to receive it, and presumably the workmen were to return to the forest. Except his namesake, the artificer, yet we may infer that he did so from the friendship of the two kings, from the need of Solomon for expert workmen, and from the fact which we learn from the first book of Kings that the stones for the edifice were hewn by Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the Giblim. The authorized version, on what authority I know not, translates this word Giblim as stone squarers. They were, however, the inhabitants of the city of Gebal, called by the Greeks Byblos, which was the principal seat of the worship and the mysteries of Adonis. The inhabitants were celebrated for their skill in stone carving and in shipbuilding. Thus, we see that there were, according to the scriptural account, 3 classes of masons engaged at the building of the temple. First, there were the workmen of Solomon. These were of the 80,000 hewers in the mountains. Footnote. 1 Kings 5:15, who were taken by Solomon from the strangers that were in the land of Israel. Footnote. 2 Chronicle 2:17. Men whom Dr. Adam Clarke supposes to have been not pure Israelites, but proselytes to the Jewish religion so far as to renounce idolatry and to keep the precepts of Noah. But we must believe that among these 80,000 strangers were to be enumerated the workmen who came from Tyre, or there will be no place allotted to them in the distribution in the first book of Kings. The 3,300 who were over the work, are said to have been chief officers of Solomon, and therefore Israelites, and the remaining 70,000 were mere laborers or bearers of burden, a class for whom Solomon need not have been indebted to the king of Tyre. Secondly, there were the workmen of Hiram, king of Tyre. These, I have already said, were probably, and indeed necessarily, included in the number of 80,000 strangers or foreigners. The words in the original are Anoshin Gerim, men who are foreigners, for Gesenius defines the word Gerim to be sojourners, strangers, foreigners, men living out of their country. Footnote. Lexicon invoked. Thirdly, we have the Giblim, the inhabitants of the city of Gebal in Phoenicia, who came to Jerusalem, invited there by Solomon to assist in the construction of the temple, and who must also be reckoned among the 80,000 strangers. Thus, the legend of the craft is justified in saying that Solomon sent after masons into diverse countries and of diverse lands, and that he had 80 workers of stone, and were all named masons. For these were the foreigners or sojourners whom he found in Jerusalem, many of whom had probably come there on his invitation, and the Tyrians who had been sent to him by King Hiram, and the Phoenicians whom he had called out of Gebal on account of their well-known skill in stone cutting. And all of these amounted to 80,000, the number stated in the books of Kings and Chronicles, and just the number mentioned in the legend of the craft. It will be seen that the legend of the craft takes no notice of the levy of 30,000 worked under Adoniram on Mount Lebanon, nor of the 70,000 were employed as bearers of burdens. As the former were merely woodcutters, and the latter common laborers, the legend does not class them among the masons, any more than it does the 3,300 who were, according to the biblical account, officers of the court of Solomon, who were appointed merely to overlook the masons and to see that they worked faithfully, perhaps also to pay them their wages, or to distribute their food, and to supervise generally their conduct. In all this, the legend of the craft differs entirely from the modern rituals, which have included all these classes and therefore reckon that at the building of the temple there were 153,300 masons instead of 80,000. The legend is certainly more in accord with the authority of the Bible than are the rituals.